I love it. I love it. So you're the one coming in on two wheels today. Usually it's me, but you've been you must be over caffeinated and just jamming with business. So I'm gonna let you drive today for a change.
Yeah, dude, I am just so fired up. I have never been so confident in like where we're at and where we're going and how we're going to get there in my life. It just feels like we're at a point both with just like real life stuff, like contracts signed and going, and like pipeline of just like really good contracts for us, like business wise, obviously, but also just like with the people that we want to work with. Where, like you always tell me, I'm going to see their name pop up on my phone. Dude, look at my godson, by the way, this picture. Look at this kid.
I love it.
Look at him. But like when I see these people's names pop up on my phone, I get psyched because I know that they're hyped up about what's going on and in our potential and what we're working on. So like there's been times where I felt really good about where we're at, but never like this. Never. And it's such a product of just us doing all of the shit that we have talked about on this show every week for the last 7 months.
Yep.
And just like I'm just so like I literally like probably like 4 or 5 months ago, like especially as COVID was doing its thing and everything that came with it was doing its thing. I just kind of had this revelation. I was talking with my cousin up in Canandaigua, who's probably like the smartest, just like most hardworking, just best human of all time. And we were just talking about it, and she doesn't run her own business necessarily, but she's responsible for a far bigger team than me. So we deal with a lot of the same shit every day. And I was talking with her, and we just came up to this theme, like there's just two kinds of humans in this world that you're going to interact with. There's people that are in, and there's people that are in the way. Everybody fits into one of those two buckets.
Yep.
And the faster that you realize that, and the faster that you're able to process that, and just identify which one someone falls into, and then accordingly adjust how much of your time and how much of your energy you give to those people, kind of we talked about last week. I don't know why, it just hit me like 2 days ago. I'm like, fuck, like that's it. And it works because when you start cutting time away from those people that are in the way, and that's not to say that they're bad people or that you completely cut them off, but they're at the bottom of your depth chart as far as who gets your time and energy.
Yep.
And then when you start to invest your time and energy in people that are in, guess what? That lets you build great things with those people. And it's a magnet for other people that are in. And just, it's like the dumbest, most simplest concept of all time. But I've just had such an epiphany around that. And like, we're just like, how our stuff is just built for it. Like, I don't know. I'm so amped on that. And I wanted to talk about that today because I don't think that we've ever really dove deep enough into that. You and I always talk about how like our story and how our friendship started, but just as an overall life strategy and just an overall how you're going to operate, in your regular life, in business, in all of the above. That is just such a key to like happiness, like fuck success for a second, just straight up happiness. And like actually having your actions map to that and not being afraid to people that don't fit it. I don't know. It's just huge. And if you can't tell, I'm just very, very hyped on it right now. And I think that's a huge thing.
It is a huge thing. And I think it's part and parcel of a couple different things. I heard a term this week that I'd never heard before. And actually, I forgot where I heard it from. And I apologize to the person that told me this. They basically said, if you're in your tribe, let's just say you have 10, 12, I would say maybe 10 or 12 people is kind of most people's kind of tribe, the group you kind of run with. If you're the most successful person in your tribe, you're in trouble. and I sat on that. I was walking one day and I let it marinate for me. I turned the Pandora off. I turned I turned the text messages off. I turned all my notifications off, and I walked. And I sat there marinating on that. I'm like saying, you're the most successful one in your tribe. If you have aspirations, if you are the most successful one in your tribe, it's time to cut bait on a few people. And it's like, holy cow, I couldn't believe it. So my question to you, based on that epiphany, and I'm close to being there myself. I've really cut a lot of garbage out of my life, and it's been really liberating. It's been I think this time being at home has been really helpful for me to learn about what is success, what I want for my own success. But you're right. Figuring out the business, honing your business development to the point where I get on a call now, and that ID, that's the first thing I say to future clients today. I go, I need to make sure I don't cringe when your ID comes up on my phone. And it's just a weird way to start a conversation, but what happens is it breaks down that fourth wall, and it shows how human you are, because it shows how you wanna interact with both current clients and future clients. So let me ask you a question. And I already know the answer, I think, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. So since you've been dialed in, it's you're just locked in right now. How do I want to phrase this? Have you said no more over that time too?
By a factor of 10. I'm not one to turn down business, because in a lot of ways, when you're running a client service agency like we are here, everything's not going to be perfect. Everything's, you're not going to be best friends with everybody. Things aren't always going to be great, especially with stuff now. So I'm not saying that you just turn down anything if somebody remotely doesn't line up with you, but just people that I was literally getting exactly what you're talking about. If I see it in my inbox or I see it on my phone, I'm like, fuck, I just cut it. And in some cases that has meant walking away from money. But what I realized at just the ripe old age of 32 is that it's just not worth it, because whatever money you think you're making, your performance or mindset or energy or spirit or a combination of all the above just suffers for hours, if not days, if not weeks. When you get to a certain point, then you just look at it, and it's like anytime that you feel liberated when you lose a client, it's like, wow, stuff was more fucked up than you realized.
Yep.
So I've said no to more stuff in the last month than I probably did the entire year leading up to it.
And I think that's why you're gaining so much clarity. Because I get hit up all the time. Can you serve on this board? Can you serve on that board? Can you do this? And it all just becomes, and I understand there's time for that. There is time for that. But what's the trade-off? That hour, even if it's once a month, an hour is a long time. I mean, you and I now, we spend almost 4 hours, well, in addition to the client stuff that we do together now, but just for this, we spend 4 hours a month doing this, where it's like, yeah, could I go serve on a board? Sure. But I'd probably either have to cut this out, or I'd have to cut coaching out, or I'd have to cut some boat time out, or hitting the driving range, which I'm trying to do more often. And that's a real thing, to cut out those things. And for me, it's just not worth it. So for me, it's not just biz stuff. It's life stuff. It's, hey, can you go volunteer at this thing or this? And I know I'm not bagging on not-for-profits or boards or anything. I do serve on one. But there was a point 7-8 years ago where I was serving on as many boards. I was on the Children's House board, and the Lorenzo board, and the Casanova Chamber of Commerce board, and this and this. And my desk was just piles and piles of just, these folders and everything. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's good for networking. I was at the winery at the time. It was good for business. It was good for networking at the time. But after a while, after about 18 months, I'm like, you're never home anyway because you're working. You have to start saying no to some things. So that's interesting. I knew the answer to that question. My second question to you is, saying no is helping you dial in, which I love. I love that. That could be the title for today. Saying no, help me dial in. When did you start turning off your inbox at 8 o'clock? I know you've told me this before, but I'm going to ask you again. Approximately how long ago?
January.
Are those the two biggest factors of why you're dialed in right now?
I think it's just,
Two
I
of.
mean,
Two
I
of.
mean, in the, like in the most simplest of terms, yes.
Yep.
But I think in a, you know, a deeper look into it, I think it's just perspective. It's the perspective, and like, I know I joke about being like old at 32, but I've been in business for myself in some regard for almost a decade now. And you learn a lot in 9 years, and you learn that the world's not going to come crashing down if you leave that till tomorrow morning. Because guess what? Every other normal human in your phone and in your inbox is at home not reading their shit,
Right.
or at the very least not responding to it. So I think a big thing is just realizing that, and realizing, especially more recently, that I've invested so much time here, especially where like that's the other thing. Like it's not just like, oh, I decided I'm only going to work with people I like, so that's what I'm going to do. I can do that because I have the confidence in this place because we've invested so much time into our internal systems. Where from the moment a new client signs a contract to the moment that we start everything is mapped out and every expectation is set along the way. So that's so smooth. And what that has done is that's led us to, I don't know what our close rate is on new prospects, but it's up there. And when you have that confidence that like more business is gonna come because our system is really fucking good right now, because we invested the time to make it that way, that makes it easier too. So we're like, year one of me being full time, I didn't say no to any opportunity and any amount of money because you need it.
Yep.
And then you get to this point now where like I can look at a client and like what we're gonna make on it and just be like, this headache is not worth the check we're gonna get every month. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big part of it. Like mechanically, yes, shutting down and making that declaration to myself that like we're not going to work with people that we're not psyched to work with.
Yep.
That's been huge. But at the same time, just having that perspective and not to humble brag, but that level of execution where I feel good about that. I know that if I say no to this painting company, there's 17 more that I can work with, and I will work with one of them or however many. So I think that's the big part is just perspective, and just kind of I don't know if confidence is the right word, but confidence that doing things your way is gonna work.
Mm-hmm. It makes a ton of sense. What's the next step for KBL? Because what I'm finding is this: rather than juggling 10, 12, 15. I mean, last year I maxed out at, and I'm not bragging because of this, I maxed out at 19 clients myself. Mm-hmm. And it was just way too much. And I was not doing a good job for all of my clients. And I really felt terrible about that. And for me, I'm like, you need to take a long, hard look at what you're going to be doing long term. So what I'm doing is I'm in the process of, obviously still trying to do a great job for everybody. And as far as I know, everybody's happy with the job that I'm doing. I'm trying to pare it down even further. I want to get to a point where I'm almost permanently on 5 or 6 or 7 teams. Maybe it's even less than that. It may even be less than that, but it needs to be just the coolest people. And I need to have fun. The team needs to be cool. We need to be doing incredible, innovative stuff. And I'm now starting to identify those partners. And for me, it's like when I did my brand pivot from distillery disco guy 3 years ago to, media business advisory guy, I was the same way. Just take on everything that you can and figure it out later. And you and I have talked through all of this. I still have clients from almost 3 years ago that are still with me, and I'm super grateful for that. But for me, it's like, all right, next level beyond this, it's advanced business advisory. Like almost board level stuff. Like I want to serve on like 4 or 5 boards of people rather than the transactional client stuff, which again has been great to this point. We've done some incredible things. Do you kind of see a similar trajectory for you, or is this always kind of be a client SaaS business? And then where do you see kind of your magic number falling, if you can answer that?
Well, I think the cool part about KBL and what's really been a focus this year, but like especially the last 3 or 4 months, like it's not me.
Right.
For the most part, like if you sign a contract with us, like I'm not doing your stuff. Like I'm not doing your content. I'm not doing your ads. I'm not doing that. And that's like the thing that we're at now, where that's almost become my job primarily in a weird way is what do I have to do to simultaneously, teach our team how to do that properly and effectively and to our standards, but at the same time, empower them to take control and take ownership of their stuff. Like I had a conversation with Dave the other day where like, it's not Batman, it's and Robin. Like you're Batman and like I'm Alfred. Like I'm here to, help you with gadgets or do any of that kind of stuff. So I think that's the exciting part, like we're working on like adding to the team pretty soon here, we're starting interviews next week probably. So, and that's like the same way that the first half of this year was me kind of retooling our process, just for, clients to get the output that they need and that I feel confident in. Now I got to do the same thing with, our, employee training and onboarding and stuff like that. So I think the neat part is that if I do that properly, we can get as big as we want, and then that's the other thing, that just with our new stuff and the revenue that we're bringing in per client now, I need a lot less clients to justify hiring a new person than I did, 12 months ago. So people ask me that all the time. I don't have a great answer. This could be, a 20-person agency 3 years from now, or it could be 200. Neither one would surprise me. I just have always historically been just a gut feeling, go with the flow kind of guy. And as long as we're having significant amount of, life and fulfillment and financial success for everybody, we're going to keep doing that. And if we can do that with 2 people right now, awesome. If we can do it with 20, awesome. If we can do it with 220, awesome. And then that's like the other thing, like we're just in an industry that's so new. Let me take a step back. Very few people are doing it right. And especially like a lot of stuff that that we haven't really shared with the public yet. I love Binghamton. Binghamton's home. Binghamton's always going to be home. But, our pool is a lot bigger than Binghamton right now.
There's a reason he's wearing orange.
150 years of service, baby. But so I don't know. And I think that's the other thing. And I think that's one of the reasons that, I have so much clarity and just so much just peace and happiness with where I'm at right now. Because I know that we can do that. I've told people close to me, kind of the most recent 2 or 3 people that we've added to the portfolio, which and that's fucking cool. The answer that I always get is, how the fuck did you do that? And I'm like, just wait. So that's the cool thing. And then just how we roll, we're so just tailor-made for referral business. because, you know, it's just, our industry doesn't do things the way we do them.
Yep.
They throw a bunch of fluff numbers and fluff terms at you to scare you into think that they're smarter than you are, and they're not. So it's just, I don't know. Literally, we can do whatever we want and whatever our talent and work ethic allows. And that's a cool feeling to go to sleep with every night.
What's the most fun part of your business right now?
I think I love being the guy that has to figure all this out. Like I love when we sit down with a client, like we just did Tuesday of this week, and we sit down in our onboarding meeting and we walk them through step by step exactly what we're going to do. And you see them sit up a little straighter and their eyes get a little wider every step that you go through, and you could just see it in their face that like this shit makes sense to them. They're excited about this. They feel good about it. And then when that works in real life, like you get to see tangible impact that you make every day. In some cases on pretty big levels.
Yep.
And you get to do it your way with systems that you built from problems that you saw. And to go from like, fuck, what are we going to do on March 14th when this unknown global pandemic hit to where we are now? And we get to do it like here. Like, come on, dude. Like, you know, every part of my job is the coolest part. Like I called you. My dad showed up randomly today because me and my brother were texting him talking shit like, hey, when are you bringing beers to the office? He just showed up. So we just left in the middle of the day and we had lunch with my dad and we came back. Like, because we can. Everything is cool.
There's just, the part that I love is there's no rules. There literally are no rules. You're playing, you know, a lot of people look at it's funny. A lot of people look at a blank piece of paper and they get scared. They get scared of, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to do. I need direction. I need rules. And I understand people are wired different ways. I mean, I totally get that. But like for me, the light bulb went off. I don't even know when it happened. It's probably around February or March. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm looking at my big board, a list of all the clients and what I have to do for each one of them. And you'll see it soon. I'm purchasing a big whiteboard and it's going to be in the new background. The new background is being put together this weekend. But finally I took a marker and I looked at the board and I literally drew a line between one and the other. And I go, I wonder if there's value on both sides between those two companies. And I started making introductions to people. I'm like, no expectations, nothing, simple biz dev networking phone call. Are you guys cool with that? And now my board looks like a tic-tac-toe, game. It looks, there's so much of this happening within my network right now. And it's creating such amazing, unique opportunities. It's like frozen alcohol popsicle guy here and like SoundCloud rapper here. It's like, wait a minute. Only an idiot wouldn't draw those lines. So for me, it's like, oh my God, these two things or three things or four things or five things together can be absolutely incredible. So for me, that's been like the biggest unlock to say, not just bringing more clients in and being happy with the number and being, all those things. Those things are a ton of hard work when you get into the weeds. But when you take a step back and you look at them, everybody was operating on an island. Now 3 or 4 of them are kind of cohabitating the larger island. And just seeing those people that used to be on separate Zoom calls, now on the same Zoom calls, the same faces, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, it's incredible and it's motivating and it's flattering and it's all of those things combined.
You
And
know,
I know it's the Friday before. I know it's the Friday before a long weekend, and we tend to get nostalgic on these Friday before long weekends. But I think that's just what I'm feeling. It's incredible.
do you know what it reminds me of? Like you talk about the whole like blank slate and how that scares some people because they don't know what to write on it or in what color, or anything like that.
Yep.
It reminds me a lot of like a little kid jumping into the deep end of the pool. It's so scary and it's so intimidating at first because they've never done it and they don't know what it's going to be like, and it's just so scary. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But then once they do it, they realize it's the most fun thing of all time. And then they just want to do that for 17 straight hours. That's what it reminds me of. You know what I mean? Because like to sit here and be like, when I run this business, I got to think of everything. You got to figure it. Nobody's there to tell you anything. Like that's super scary to a lot of people at first. But then once you've done it for years and you get to see all of that kind of stuff over and over, you just want to keep jumping in that pool over and over and over again. Like that's what it makes me think of.
Yep. Yep. It's amazing, and it's I was having a conversation with another entrepreneur this week, and because I'm a creature of habit. That's why this whole thing has been hard for me, because I don't do well in the summertime, especially when the kids are home, just because there's so much distraction. There's a lot going on. I was the guy that when I got into this business, this fly's been driving me nuts for
I got me too. I'm kind of cool.
3 days. I killed 2 of them, and one of them is still flying. It's been driving me nuts. I even have my newspaper here ready to go. But I'm a very big creature of habit, and when I get out of my habit, I get stressed. I can feel my blood pressure rise. So I think what I've been working on over this summer is, because we didn't know when this was going to end. We still don't know when this is going to end. I mean, kids are going back to school full time next week, which is going to be great. There's a lot of anxiety for that. I think more for the adults than it is for the kids. Kids can adapt a lot faster than adults. But I think at some point they're going to be home for a couple more months. So I'm trying to budget my energy and my mindset to be like, yeah, you're going to have September and I'm hoping October at least to be home to get back to the normal, lock myself in the new office and really just biz dev my face off. Like that is where I'm really excited to go. But chances are they're going to be home again, and this whole kind of circus of sitting in front of a computer and trying to learn something is going to happen again. My point is, it's been that process of having to go through it, those growing pains, and a lot of times there has been pain where you're on a Zoom call and you feel like, my head's going to pop off because of my blood pressure because there's so much going on back here. Right. But then I keep hearing you in the back of my head saying, hey, you're not as big as you're not as cool as you think you are. You're not as big as you think you are. And every single Zoom call doesn't need to be perfect for that client to be happy or not to, to discontinue the contract. So I think that's been interesting for me to kind of learn about myself and teach myself and kind of try to grow through all of that, so that if and when we do get back, after vaccine and not political, blah, blah, whatever that happens, that the level has been raised because you can fight through those distractions and still get the job done, even 6 months through a pandemic. So for me, that's been a big thing to kind of learn about myself and teach myself and then apply to other people. So that's what he and I were talking about this week. It was cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think you never realize when growth is happening. You know what I mean? Everything always seems just impossible to figure out. And like, how are we ever going to figure this out? And like the stuff that you thought that about 6 months ago is beyond routine now. You can do it with your eyes closed, with your hands behind your back. Yep. And that's right. I think just having just that level of perspective. And it's one of my favorite quotes, Vince Lombardi. He's like, perfection is impossible, but if we chase perfection, we can achieve excellence. Mm-hmm. And I always love that. And that's why I don't get stressed out when I'm not perfect, because I know that if you're getting as close to perfect as you can most of the time, you're going to do pretty good. Mm-hmm. And so that's just kind of how, and like, that's where like that's the other thing too, just from perspective. I am so fucking aware that I have zero to complain about. You know what I mean? Like pretty much once we hit the end of April, our lives day to day, we're back to normal. You know, I didn't have to worry about the kids. I didn't have to worry about school. I didn't have to worry about making sure that they were paying attention to their online classes and not playing for. I didn't have to worry about any of that.
Yep.
So that's the other thing too. Where like, what as a, you know, white male straight business owner in America do you have to complain about? Like, shut up. You're in the top 1% of the top 1%, my man.
Did you have a low point during all this?
Not really, you know, because there's certain understandings that you have with yourself when you decide that I'm going to be in business for myself on my own. And, you know, every day I walk in this door, I'm walking in with the understanding that I'm in charge of figuring this out. Yep. I'm in charge of everything. I'm in control of everything. So if I think something needs to be changed or something's not working, like I can do it. You know, and like it's like the same way that like we talk about, you know, not stressing yourself trying to make, you know, 100 biz dev DMs on the Friday before Labor Day because everybody's already gone. Everybody else literally on the planet was going through this stuff too. So I don't know, like I just didn't, like it would wear on me emotionally just working with our clients who were very stressed because their business and their livelihood was on the line too. There were days where that was hard.
Yeah.
You know, but like I also like when you know there's no alternative.
Yep.
Right? We've talked about it in a bunch of episodes. Like there was a lot of people in a lot of industries that got dealt a really shitty hand by all of this. But like, and it's okay to like take a second and be like, wow, this fucking sucks.
Yep.
But like, what's the alternative?
Right.
You know, so I think that like there was probably like a good 6 to 8 weeks that I had to play therapist much more than I played marketing guy.
Yep.
But I mean, even looking at it now, like I have relationships that are 10 times stronger than they were in January because we were those people, you know? So I don't know. We had it so easy compared to everybody else that like even trying to fathom being stressed or down about anything is just asinine to me.
Yeah, I think for me, Eric, go orange. Exactly. What are the BU colors?
Pantone 342C green.
I'll take orange. Green's one of my least favorite colors. Green and yellow. Ironically, green and yellow are my least favorite colors, and they're my alma mater's colors. So, you know, I have that going for me. I think late March, early April was super stressful now that I've had a chance to think about it and look at it a little bit. You know, the kids were still trying to figure out school. Right. You know, it was those initial phone calls back to clients were taxing. Those were stressful. You just didn't know. I think I was carrying a dozen, maybe 15 clients at the time. And it was, you know, texting at 9:30 at night being like, hey, you good? You know? And it was stressful. I remember Siobhan coming home when she was trying to figure everything out because it was the Wild West out there. It was the Wild West at the hospital, you know? So there was just stress coming from everywhere. And I think for me, we never really got school figured out. That just ended up being just everybody just took a mulligan on school last year. It's going to be so much better starting next week. But for me, once I solidified with, I think I had one person go on pause for a month. I offered it to everybody. I'm like, hey, we need to just chill and figure this all out. Then let's just do that. But only one person took me up on it. Mm-hmm. And the moment I came back, it took me about a full week to kind of go through everybody, you know, to kind of have those calls. And when it was 11 out of 12 or 12 out of 13, it doesn't matter what the number was. I could just feel myself. I just sat down on the Friday, just like today, and I was like, oh, like, it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. They still, you know, the people, and this goes back to what we were talking about. The people that you've decided to work with have already internalized that they want to work with you long term.
Yep.
That even if this pandemic was over by Memorial Day, which would have been great, right, for everybody, but it's not. It's still going on. They still have made that internal decision that they want to work with you long term, even though it's hitting the fan today. And that was huge for me, but it was also extremely stressful for me. So I had to go back to, my walking 25 miles a week, and I had to do my stretching, and I had to, I have my processes in place that if I'm not doing those things, that's when my blood pressure goes up and I start to stress. When I am doing those things, life is good. Life is real good. So that part was tough for me, but if we do go back to it, and let's just say the kids are home, November and December, and they can't go back until winter break or, whatever it is, if they're going to be home, I think we'll all be much better prepared this time because we'll have a routine. We bought the kids desks upstairs. They have their own Chromebooks. They have their own little space so they can focus on their work. So we're a lot more prepared this time, and we have the infrastructure in place. I'm paying Spectrum $150 for however many gigs I have pumping into this house right now, but we're ready. We can all stream at the same. We can all stream at the same time. We can all do our Zoom at the same time. So I think you're right. We didn't know what we didn't know, but it was laying that groundwork of people that really helped us pull through. At least my family pulled through on the other side.
100%, and I think that's one of those things where it just goes back to expectations and communication, I think we lost 2 clients out of our, I don't even know how many, which pretty much, you're not going to say you knew it was coming, but you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where and it's partly just, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, just how I'm wired. Going back to that either you're in or you're not kind of mindset. If you don't want to be in, okay, cool, no problem. I understand it. These are times are absurd. Okay, who's next then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And going back to I feel like we talk about the same 6 themes all the time. But if you're good enough to figure out a biz dev strategy for COVID that can get, the right kind of clients in, you're going to be fine there. And then that's what we did. So it's just one of those things and I think now, we're pretty much telling people, maybe I'm just being overly cautious for our people, but I would plan on October, November being March and April because, leaving out any number of theories about everything. We live in upstate New York. It's for things, people are still on edge right now when it's 75 and sunny out. When we get to a point where people are going to be coughing and sniffling regardless, because that's what happens in October, November, December up here, and it's going to mess with people. So if we're brick and mortar or retail or sit down indoor focus, we better have a plan. And this isn't like March. We have no excuse to not be prepared. We have no excuse to not be ready. We know what's going to happen. We've seen that end of the spectrum where everything's shut down. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. We've seen that. So if we're not released remotely prepared for that, our fault. 100%.
Yep, you're exactly right. I like that analogy, and I don't like that analogy at the exact same time. October and November are going to be like March and April, except we can see it coming.
Correct.
So you have 30 days, approximately, maybe 60 days, to be prepared, to be back in your house, and that's why we've spent the last month getting the house ready. Making the teenage hangout downstairs, creating everybody's personal spaces. That's why I'm moving up. I'm currently on the kitchen table. I'm not going to be here next week. So, that's going to be my space. That's what we talked about last week. For me, it's the continuation of trying to get better where you walk out of there at 8:00 and you turn the lights off. I'm going to walk out of that room and turn the lights off. And that's going to be it for me. I'm really, really trying to do that. I'm downloading PGA Tour 2K21 this weekend. That's going to be, get on the sticks at 9:30 as opposed to answering that email or texting that person. It's always, it's going to be, I need something insurmountable like career mode on PGA Tour 2021 that just never ends, that I can just get out of my own head, play for an hour, listen to my music, and go to bed. Like, I know that's what's coming, and that's where I'm going to have to improve myself. But it's having that foresight to know that is what you need to do to weather the next storm. Mm-hmm. So for me, the same advice you're giving your clients is my clients is, what we've learned over these 6 months, we're going to have to triple down in October and November, December, in January, because it probably is going backwards. We've been so lucky being not lucky. We've been fortunate because of the things we've done upstate that we have, for the most part, except for the college campuses, a pretty low transmission rate. Yep. But it's coming. People are traveling. Some people don't believe in it, et cetera, et cetera. I get that. But it's going to be those business practices that helped us survive the first wave, that if and when the second wave does come, triple down on those same things so that you're thriving through it. And then hopefully next spring, this whole thing, clears up, supposedly.
And I think that the thing that we saw this spring that is going to provide some solace is that now that we've seen it, like, we know that just because, even if another shutdown doesn't happen, right? Even if we stay where we are procedurally right now, there's going to be handfuls of people that just aren't going to go even wait in line for a coffee because somebody's, you know what I mean? Which is fine. But I think the one thing that we saw last spring is that just because there was a shutdown didn't mean people stopped spending money. Mm-hmm. If anything, it was the opposite, mm-hmm. where, restaurants that had a good takeout program were up here, e-com sales were up here. So as long as you're prepared for it, the money's still there. It's not like the economy is tanking for like big foundational reasons. Like, the economy was not even tanking, but that was man-made. We did that.
Yeah.
Right. All of the undercurrents were still fine. Like in baseball, I talk about like peripheral stats. Like, the peripheral stats were fine. We just had some bad luck on hits finding holes. Yep. So that's what I'm like going over with people now. Like,
girls, quiet. We'll go out in a minute.
Clearly the dogs disagree, but it's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
These two are girls. These two are the big winners of the pandemic. I'll tell you that.
Oh, dude, dogs everywhere are thriving right now.
They're loving it.
Question.
It's great. Hey, Paige, can you get the girls? Thank you. I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often, because this is what they do all day.
We had a pretty good run recently where they've been pretty well behaved.
Didn't Cassie get on the table one? I think she was on the table one day.
Oh yeah, she's made some guest appearances.
Yeah. Sorry, let me regroup here. Let me do some call outs. Grammy's watching. Grammy's always watching. I appreciate that. Nancy, Mike, Kyle, Ben G, good to see you. Joe, Chris, Ivan, our buddy Eric. Girls! Hang on one second.
Get him, Ben.
Must be mail time. Which means Amazon time.
Let's go, baby.
So rumor has that we're going to be the first, or one of the very first areas here in Syracuse to be one of the test markets for same-day drone delivery for Amazon when we open up when they open up in Liverpool next year.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it's pretty cool. And I think for me, it's just a continuation in the acceleration of the marketplace. And I've talked to a bunch of business owners, and especially a couple of restaurant owners, and they've said their takeout business, the ones that have done it well, and their delivery business has actually expanded their overall business from where they were last year, because it was something that was fun and cute, and it was an amenity last year, but this year it is the amenity. And I don't know about you, but I've eaten out a lot more to try to support local friends and restaurant owners, etc. But I guess I'm weird in the fact that I don't really miss going out to a restaurant. And ever since I was a kid, my grandfather loved it, and I fell in love with it because of my grandfather. Going out and having a nice, and having a meal at a restaurant. I thought I would miss it more. I actually don't. I like somebody else cooking for me and having to clean up, but there's been a lot of takeout containers in our trash, and I don't miss it as much as I do. You?
Not really. I miss, like, early on, like I just missed like the people, like to you go like order food and like have a drink at the bar with your friends while you waited to like get it to go, like, but like since that's been back, like I don't know, like is there a real difference between going to sit down at the restaurant with three friends or just getting takeout and eating it here? Like not really,
Yeah.
So no, like I just ultimately the end result is like you're eating the same food with the same people. You're just in a different spot, So
Yeah.
like it hasn't really, I haven't really missed it so much because so much of I'm a big like takeout guy anyway. Like I'll get bread, like eat it back here. I'll get lunch and eat it back here. Like that's 90% of my diet as it is. That was a pre-existing condition. So like, no, I haven't. And I think people are getting used to it. It's just, we realize, you think that you have to do things a certain way and that there's nope, we're not trying something else. And then you do it. And then it's like, oh, like Burger Mondays at home taste pretty much exactly the same as Burger Mondays in the restaurant.
Weird. You should get your own beer.
Yeah. Maybe. No, because they do like the to-go jugs of the draft beer. So like if you know that like Matt keeps his tap lines cleaner than anybody else and the Yingling just it's a little bit different there, just get a couple to go and then call it a day.
I don't know what I miss. We'll make this the last question. I gotta roll for my last call before I check out for 3 days. I'm really looking forward to it. The reason I love holidays is because I don't feel pressure to look at my phone as much because I know everybody else is checked out. Like I love the week between Christmas and New Year's because it just gives you that kind of free permission to be off. And you and I talk about this a lot, especially myself. I have a really hard time checking out. So weekends like this are awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't miss going out to a restaurant as much as I thought. I don't miss going to I'm not a big movie guy anyway. My family are big movie fans. They love going to like the movie tavern. I know they're missing that big time. So we invested in the sound bar on the stereo. And actually they've told me that they've actually really enjoyed that. I may move that function down in the basement and just do like a whole surround sound and do like the whole, freaking studio thing. Yep. I don't miss that. I don't miss going to the mall. I hate the mall. I don't miss going to the mall at all. I've been working from home for 3 years, so this has been nothing new to me. I'm one of those people that can motivate myself at home and biz dev and do my work here and not get distracted by video games or anything. I'm failing to find something. We hang out with the same 10 or 12 people, like I said before, so that wasn't a big deal. I don't know. I'm having a hard time finding something that I miss. I think if I had to put one thing on it is the routine of school and going to my kids' games. I think that's got to be the one thing that I really miss is seeing them get off the bus with their school. Because this will be the first year Paige plays for school. So she's like out of little leagues and stuff like that. So she actually gets to put, she gets to put Casanova on her jersey, and that'll be amazing. Yep. And I hope that happens still. So I really, other than that, I really can't think of anything.
Same. The biggest thing for me was just like the first couple. I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum, but like the first couple of months, just not being around people was tough. Like I am very much a high fiver and a bro hugger, and that's just who I am. But I mean, like even like once we kind of got that back, like what do we? I think there's a lot of shit we thought we needed that we don't.
Right.
You know, so it's just one of those things that, like, I don't know. It's just perspective, bro.
As soon as we got the people back, it's like my mom who's commenting. Yeah, for her it's been tough because she's an older person, lives by herself. But she's been able to come down now and go on the boat and cook out with us and do those kind of things. So that's been great. But other than that, it's and I know people, again, I preface this by saying I know people are hurting. I know people are out of work. I know how fortunate you and I are to have made it and actually thrived through this. And that's the whole reason we do this show. And we started, what, a month before this whole thing happened. I still have to go back and listen to those. I think that's going to be just incredible to listen to at some point, just to see what our mindset was like and how it changed so quickly.
Yo, I went back actually last night and watched like the first like 3 or 4 episodes. I think we're gonna end up being really smart. Not to humble brag, but a lot of the shit we said was the right answer, which is pretty nice.
Look at that. It's almost like we know what we're talking about.
I'll let that rumor fly out there. That's fine with me.
All right, I'm gonna end it. I gotta roll to my last appointment of the day. Hang on. Oh, all right. Let me end my Facebook. Thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers.
See ya.